Welcome to another episode of EMF Warriors, a podcast where we share the latest research and cutting-edge information on everything to do with electromagnetic fields. Solution-focused interviews, including genuine real-life stories of people affected by harmful EMFs and how they have fully recovered from their debilitating symptoms. So sit back, relax, and get ready to enjoy another episode of EMF Warriors.
G'day listeners, welcome to EMF Warriors Podcast. My name is Jason Bawden-Smith. I'm your co-host, and I'm here with my great mate and fellow host, Scott Compton. How are you, Scott?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jason?
Excellent.
So, you're down in Australia. I'm up here in the U.S. I just wanted to give our audience a little bit of insight into who we are. As EMF Warriors, we're a global movement, and we are getting everybody around the world united around the issues of EMFs, which are electromagnetic fields and frequencies. Got to get this information out there to the public because, as you well know, Jason, a lot of people just focus on the biochemistry and they're really not thinking about the biophysics at all.
That's right. And when we started EMF Warriors, I personally wasn't sure what would happen, whether we'd be accepted or rejected, whether the community was ready for this new level of quantum biology that we're bringing to the table, because it goes past the traditional testing and shielding that is really important, but it only tells half the story. So we thought we'd take things to the next level, and I think we have 2,000 or more than 2,000 people on our closed Facebook page now, Scott. Is that right?
Yeah, we're up to 2,100 people. As a matter of fact, in the last week, the numbers are starting to climb, more like 30, 40 members a day now.
Wow.
A lot of the people that are already there realize the information that we're providing them, and other great people that are part of our community putting up some really amazing information on EMFs for everybody.
Yeah, I noticed that there's lots of comments and shares, and it's quite active. So given that we have started so well, we launched in April, we thought we'd take things to the next level and start this podcast. So this podcast will be hosted by both me and Scott. And Scott, would you like to go into some details about the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the most part, I'm gathering different guests that I know that I have contacts with, and as you know, you're doing your own stuff too. So typically you'll hear podcasts from me interviewing not only famous people that are involved with EMFs, the research and such, but also just everyday people that have issues with EMFs or that have great insights into EMFs. So we're kind of hitting the whole range across the board with everybody. We're also doing this on a fortnightly basis. And, about every 2 weeks, expect a new podcast from us. Typical interviews in our EMF Warriors podcast will go 20 to 40 minutes on average. Occasionally when we record people, like I did this last week with Jack Cruz, it went actually an hour 20, hour 30 minutes. So in these longer interviews, we're going to actually break them up into a couple different segments. Usually they go a lot longer. Just wanted to give the audience this insight because then you can digest the different podcasts in an easier manner in that time frame. How about you, Jason, with the interviews you've already done?
Yeah, I think we need to hit the sweet spot for most people who like to listen to podcasts. And from the research that I did, it seems the 20 to 40 minute mark is the ideal time, whether they base that on travel time to work, sitting in a train or a bus, listening to a podcast. I like podcasts as well, primarily because you can download them and you can turn your phone on airplane mode, you can turn off your location services and listen to it without too much EMF. You may be getting some from your neighbours, but at least when you're listening to it in your own sanctuary, you can do it without any exposures. So about 20 to 40 minutes. Now, like you, Scott, I took well over an hour with my first guest, Katherine Fitz. We are going to cut that in half and have part A and part B. And we're going to have part A of Jack Cruises in the first launch date, which will be the 14th of July. Friday, the 14th of July will be the launch. And Katherine's interview was amazing. For those who don't know, Katherine Fitz, she's a high Wall Street player for many years before moving over to the Bush Senior Administration. So we go through the money. It's called Follow the Money. And we digest, unfortunately, the level of corruption and fraud that we have in society today. And we bring it back to EMF and some really cool things that she recommends we do and she does to limit her exposures. How was your interview with Jack?
Oh, it was amazing. Of course, me being electrosensitive, I went into a lot of the topics, especially I had asked our Facebook forum several weeks ago about what questions they were looking for electrohypersensitivity, things like that. So when I started asking questions, the interview just went like bananas into areas that I didn't even expect. Me following this issue for the last 20 years, I learned a lot from him in that interview. I don't want to really spoil anything.
No, that's fantastic. So as part of the launch of the new podcast, we have what I'm calling EMF Warriors 2.0. We have an upgraded website that's currently being put together by Karina. She and Scott are working together on moving the existing library off a platform called Newtopia. Hasn't quite worked for us. We had a few problems with links not upgrading and a few other issues. So we're bringing that content onto our website.
So those people that are at the library at emfwarriors.com that are looking at things and really have questions, this is where you would want to go to the closed Facebook page, sign up there, become a member, and ask your questions in front of everybody. I'm there daily. Other people, very reputable people, can get your questions answered. Even if you find new content just online that you don't think exists up at the EMF Warriors library, it's a great place to just drop stuff for us because we'll be updating it periodically as well. So join the closed Facebook group. You'll get your answers there.
Yeah, so I go on Facebook occasionally, not as often as you. We have some really good technical experts like David Blake, who just knows so much about testing and mitigation, and a whole new crew of people who are joining this tribe. And it is a tribe. We're all in this together. We're only going to succeed by changing things by starting at home and moving out from that, bringing more and more people into our tribe, sharing our knowledge, engaging, and practicing what we preach. It's probably the most important thing.
Yeah. So I want to end this for our audience here. It's a good little intro to our podcast and just our library in general, our Facebook group, everything we're doing. But this is a community-driven effort for everybody. I'm very much like my Mr. Spock nickname. I will just assimilate all the information into one area, just try to provide you the knowledge and just get it to you. And if we find hiccups or problems, issues along the way, research that is, sketchy, like that's all going to happen, like with any subject. So we expect that, and we will just do our due diligence to be like the Sherlock Holmes, to just completely investigate the information and just keep digging and digging and digging for you. And hopefully you'll do the same for us as a community. You'll dig for us as well.
Excellent. And don't forget, if you have a question or you want to send us something, you can email us at hello@EMF Warriors. I think we'll cut it there, Scott. There's plenty more to come. Look out every fortnight for our new podcast, and July 14, here we go.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you for being part of the EMF Warriors community. We look forward to bringing you our next episode. Be certain to join in discussions on our EMF Warriors closed Facebook group. And make sure you subscribe to our fortnightly newsletter to stay up to date with global developments. If you would like to learn more about us, go to emfwarriors.com, where we have curated an amazing library of free information, resources, and solutions to your most pressing EMF concerns and needs. Because together, we can make a real difference. The materials and content discussed within this podcast are the opinions of host Jason Bawden-Smith and Scott Compton and guest interviews. This information is intended as general information only for listeners of this podcast. Listeners should always seek professional advice, and the content and opinions expressed in this podcast should never be construed as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. EMF Warriors.